Hey there, restaurant pros. It's Dave Scott Peters, and welcome to episode 101 from season 1 of the Restaurant Prosperity Formula. I've been coaching restaurant owners since 2003, and the Restaurant Prosperity Formula is based on what the most successful restaurant owners I've worked with do on a daily basis to achieve their success. The basic premise of the formula centers around achieving prosperity, freedom for your restaurant, the financial freedom you deserve. To achieve prosperity, you have to follow a very specific formula made up of leadership, systems, training, accountability, and taking action. The next few episodes are going to be compilations of a few of the best tips from the last 100 episodes in areas such as food costs, systems, leadership, and labor cost. Today's episode is going to focus on food cost. We'll be diving into how high food costs are often self-inflicted. A quick walkthrough on how food cost is calculated. We're going to dive into the concept of ideal food cost and finish with some menu engineering basics. Whether you're new to my podcast or a longtime listener, this is an episode you will not want to miss. Let's get started, but first, a word from our sponsor. We all know managing costs is one of the most important parts of running a profitable restaurant, especially now. But between fluctuating vendor prices, waste, labor, and the never-ending list of tasks that demand your attention on a daily basis, it can be challenging for even the most experienced of us to manage costs well. That's where Margin Edge comes in. Margin Edge is a complete restaurant management software that automatically uses data from your POS and invoices to show you food and labor costs in real time. Don't wait until it's too late. Margin Edge gives you tools to make decisions in the moment, like a daily P&L, price alerts on key ingredients, and real-time plate costs, all without ever having to touch a spreadsheet. Take control of your costs, work more efficiently, and be more profitable. Go to www.marginedge.com/DSP to learn more and schedule your demo today. What if I told you that while food prices are certainly having a negative impact, right? As the food prices go up, it's having a negative impact on your bottom line. The truth is, the majority of the issues of high food costs are self-inflicted. Let me explain. Did you know that most restaurants operate 7 to 9 points above their ideal food cost? Now, if you've been following for any length of time, you should know that with recipe costing cards, your product mix from your point of sale system, what your customers actually purchase, we can come up with what your ideal food cost is. Not some national average of 34% that was just pulled out of the air because you're not average. Maybe you're a pizza pasta place and should be in the low 20s, or you're a steakhouse and you could be in the high 30s and still make money. We're not going to grab onto a national average of 34%. That's not going to work. What we need to know is what your food cost should be based off accurate, up-to-date recipe costing cards, what your customers actually purchase. And by putting this together, we're going to have items that have a small food cost, 5-6% of these hand-cut French fries you make. But you also have these anchor appetizers out of a box into a fryer, and they have a 38% food cost. But ultimately, based on what your customers order, something called a weighted average, your menu mix, we're going to discover your ideal food cost should be 30%. Maybe it's 22, maybe it's 32. Doesn't matter. What is your food cost based on your menu and your operation? So with that said, if it's 30%, did you know that a typical restaurant runs 7 to 9 points above that number? So is that all the distributor? No, but I'll get to that. Oh, there's this stuff called waste and spoilage. Waste and spoilage. That means every time you order too many tomatoes, you throw them away because, well, they're bad. That's usage. That's product that left the shelves, money you didn't get for it. What about waste? That when Lurch is on the line and uses his hand to put what you think is supposed to be 6 ounces of French fries on a plate, but 8 or 9 goes on the plate every single time, you're wasting product. It's when that server says, hey, I need to get some dressing. And you say, just go into the cooler, grab it. And they pour 4 ounces of dressing into a portion cup instead of a 2-ounce portion cup and filling it up. For every 2 ounces extra that's going out is money out of your back pocket. So over portioning, throwing away product because you butchered it improperly, right? You're not getting the right yields, or you're throwing away product because it's spoiled. Doesn't matter. Product that you're wasting, that spoils, increases your use. I want you to think about this. Do you remember that 30% ideal food cost we came up with? Well, we use this as a theory, right? Well, I said a typical restaurant runs 7 to 9 points above ideal. But look at this. Beyond anything else, one thing alone can make a huge difference. Do you know that if your staff overportions by 10%, so if I were a Mexican food restaurant, could you see 10% more shredded cheese on a plate? No. Could you see 10% more shredded beef? No. Could you see 10% more sauce? No. Could you see 10% more chips? No. Beans? No. Rice? No. So if your eye can't see 10% more, being overportioned 10%, and it goes out dish after dish after dish, you take that 30% ideal food cost and you now make it 33%. So on $1 million business, that's a lot of money. If you're 2 million, 3 million, and so on, this can break your bank, for lack of a better term. What about theft? Well, I know you don't have any thieves. Whatever. It happens from the restaurant business. This is going to be very important about culture. And you might say, hey, David, I've got security cameras. Well, I love security cameras. I really do. But they're great for acts of violence, theft, harassment, burglaries. They're after the fact that you're going to watch a video. It's already happened. What I want is systems in place to control or prevent theft, and managers inspecting those systems. But if you have product go out your back door that wasn't paid for by your guest, instead it was paid for by you, then your food cost is going to go up. What about the owner? You, the owner, taking tax advantage of your business. I would. That's where you say, yeah, I'm going to have a barbecue this weekend. You pull up your truck and you say, take a keg of beer, you take a bottles of vodka and bottles of whiskey, and you get ribs and hot dogs and buns and burgers and fries, and you help yourself like it's your own grocery store. Well, I would do that. Absolutely. But if you don't put it on a waste sheet and understand that you're kind of taking that as a benefit of your business, your food cost is going to look high because that product disappears and no money came in for it. Trust me, your kitchen manager, your chef is going to want credit for that, meaning you took product, my food cost is high, but it's not my fault. See, the food cost formula is beginning inventory plus purchases. That's the inventory you took at the end of last period. Hopefully that's on a weekly basis, could be on a monthly basis. Let's now assume it's a weekly basis. So Sunday night, you're a Monday through Sunday work week. You close Sunday night. You take your inventory Sunday night. What's the value of the product of everything on my shelves? That's components to dishes, soups, side dishes, sauces, desserts that I make. Those would be my batch recipes, plus all the products I purchase from all my vendors. Well, that's my beginning inventory, plus all the purchases. So every invoice that comes through the door, whether paid for or not, it's an expense that day, and only the food portion of those invoices. So I take my beginning inventory plus purchases. That gives me what I could use. That's my total product available. I subtract from that my ending inventory at the end of the week, the end of that next Sunday. And by doing so, I'm going to find out how much product actually left the shelves for the money that's come in, right? So whatever left the shelves, does not matter if it was sold, stolen, wasted, spoiled. We'll talk about that again in just a second. Its use is use, meaning it's gone. Use again is you sell it. Use again is wasted, spoiled. Use again is stolen. Use again is you taking product out of the kitchen. See, the math of it, the arithmetic, if you will, is blind. It just knows that you started this with this much product, you purchased this much, you ended with this much, and the difference of that is what you used. It has no idea if it was stolen, whether it was wasted, spoiled, or you sold it, or you took it out the back door. Now, you could see very quickly how your food cost, if the equation is use divided by sales, if your use goes up because of theft, your use goes up because you're overportioning. Use goes up because you threw away product. Use goes up because you took it out the back door. Anything other than selling it, you can quickly see how that could increase your food cost percentage and the dollars you use. So many of the practices that we do in our internally are a factor. Now, again, use your food sales, your use, the product that left the shelves divided by your food sales gives you your food cost percentage. So if I had to come up with a 30% food cost, that means for every dollar that comes in, I used 30 cents in food product. Hopefully I sold it, but I could have stolen, wasted, spoiled, took it out the back door myself. So while many get upset at well, the price of cheese has gone up 15 cents on a pound, and you want to just yell at your distributor, what are you doing to me? How you operate your kitchen has more to do with why your food cost is high, not your distributor. 1, lack of systems to control your food cost, and 2, the lack of leadership in your kitchen. That's right. You running your kitchen, not having controls in place, and not having management to lead, control, teach, hold people accountable to those systems is why your food cost is high. It's not really your distributor. You see, systems allow you to impose your will without being there, that people are following your recipe costing cards to a T. People are following your systems to ensure the guest gets the same experience every single time, which not only controls your cost, but increases your sales because they are consistent with your product. Systems ensure everyone is doing things your way, but without management inspecting those systems, each and every one of those systems, every shift, every day, means your systems are not going to be used. See, putting systems in place is very easy. That's a task. Making sure people know how to use them, making sure they're being used on a daily basis and holding people accountable to those systems, that's where the magic happens. It's the people part of the business that's the challenge. And it ain't easy. But that's why we have managers. So here's your restaurant owner reality check. If your food cost is higher than you think it should be, you're not managing your kitchen correctly. You don't have the right systems in place to control your food costs. And if you have recipe costing cards, you don't know what to do with them. So what systems am I talking about that would reduce your food costs, prevent theft, and ensure you hit your target food cost? Let me provide you with a list of systems every restaurant needs to have in place. Before that, let me remind you, to know where your food cost should be, you must have a budget. That's a whole nother discussion. So let's run down these kitchen systems to control your food costs, to lower your food costs, to ensure you are going to make the money you deserve. You're going to put in the key item tracker. That's where we count 5 to 15 items every shift to make sure those items are not stolen. It's a little more complicated. We start with what we had. We bring in what we prepped or purchased, what we ended with. We go to our POS system, find how many we sold, and see the difference. Along with that, it should all match. There should be no variance. If there's a variance, it better be on the waste tracker. If not, I have worse than theft. I have managers not using the damn systems I put in place to control theft. But the waste tracker, all we're doing is writing down things that we wasted. Whether we ended the night and had to dump a ninth pan of rice, or we threw away a case of tomatoes, as I said in the past. Or maybe we lost a case of salmon because it's spoiled. Maybe we have a new cook on the pizza oven and burned a pizza and we threw it away. See, it doesn't matter why it was wasted. It's a proactive management tool. Not only do we know the product value we wasted, but when you see there's a problem right then and there, it's a proactive system that you can change your trajectory. Hey, John's been burning steaks. I'm going to retrain John, reposition John before he hits the grill independently, or maybe it's gone on for so long, I'm going to terminate John. I'm going to stop losing steaks instead of waiting for the end of the month and looking backwards going, why is my food cost high? A system I call the Restaurant Checkbook Guardian, otherwise known as the Purchase Allotment System, where I give my managers, based on my budget, my forecast, my actual purchases, and my DSR, I tell each one of my managers how much money they can spend on their next order to be within budget. And by doing so, I can put my kitchen manager, my chef, on a budget with a little leeway. And if they want to go over that budget, they need to find what the problem is. They need to tell me what they did to fix it. And I get to make the final decision because there's only one person allowed to go over budget. That's me in my business. Now, all of a sudden, just think about that. If you can stop dumbass mistakes, you can reduce theft, and you can put your kitchen team on a budget, you can see how quickly I'll guarantee you a 2-3 point drop in your food costs alone right then and there without any other systems. Now, before we go through menu engineering, the techniques involved, let me be sure we understand the concept of ideal food cost. So here's the deal. If you have accurate, up-to-date recipe costing cards, your product mix from your POS system, So what it costs, what you charge your guests for, and how many you sold of each, you're going to find out what your ideal food cost should be, not some national average of 34%. You could be a pizza place with pasta and maybe run a 22% ideal food cost. You could be a steakhouse and be in the high 30s. It does not matter. In this instance, it's based on what we call a weighted average. It allows me to sell anchor appetizers frozen out of a box like when I was a franchisor into the fryer at a 38% cost of goods sold, but I didn't sell so many of them. But we did sell the hell out of our hand-cut, fresh-cut, daily cut French fries at 5% cost of goods sold. So the more I sold French fries, the more the 38% did not affect me. So the best way to describe that is, let's say we have a 2-item menu. That's all we have. One item has a 99% food cost and the other one has a 1% food cost. And in a calendar month, you sell 100 items, 99 of them at 99% food cost and one at 1%. What's your food cost? 99%. What if the same menu next month, 100 items, 99 items are sold at 1% food cost and one at 99? What's your food cost? 1%. See, you can't know what your food cost should be in your restaurant without accurate, up-to-date recipe costing cards, your product mix, period. Because this is based on your restaurant, the food you should have used for the money it came in. Now, this is called ideal cost, meaning there's no waste, no theft, no spoilage, perfect restaurant, which does not exist. So I want to be perfectly clear that you will never hit your ideal food cost. It is impossible. If you do, then somebody screwed up the recipe cards on purpose or by accident. So the key is, I will tell you that most restaurants run 7 to 9 points above ideal. So we have all this room to fix things, but that's not what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about, just as a reminder, a rock star kitchen manager or chef will run 1.5 to 2 points above ideal. So our threshold when we re-engineer our menu and we're trying to reach a certain food cost, we know our ideal food cost needs to be at least 2 points lower and that we have our shit together in the kitchen. Reducing theft, stopping dumbass mistakes, training. You get the picture? Now let's dive into menu engineering basics. To start off, we're going to talk about the 3 different kinds of menus. We have a single panel menu that, do you know that if from the middle up, if your eyes hit the middle of the menu and go up, you'll sell more at the top of that single panel menu? Do you know if you have a 2-panel menu that opens side by side, right? So you have 2 panels in front of you, that in the upper left-hand corner, all the way up in the upper left-hand corner to a quarter way down on the right side, anything in this upper right-hand side will sell more? Do you know if you had a 3-panel menu, one that opens to the left, then opens to the right, that there are 3 panels dead in front of you? That your eyes start in the center and then move to the upper right, across to the upper left, down to the bottom left, back up to the upper right, down to the bottom right, and finally to the middle of the center panel. That means in that upper right-hand side of the 3rd panel to your far right, anything in there has 3 eye movement passes to it. It also means that in that center panel, all the way at the bottom, our eyes barely ever got there. This is where we put our sodas, our side dishes, our food warnings, our health warnings, right? So by putting things in a certain spot, you can influence what your guests are going to buy, thereby changing your food cost. Menu copy is so important. So for instance, we don't want in the sandwich section, breast of chicken sandwich, lettuce, tomato, mayo, and provolone cheese, $10.95. That's a grocery list. Who wants to spend money on that? Or you could say we have a teriyaki chicken burger, a savory grilled chicken breast brushed with a sweet teriyaki sauce topped with Hawaiian pineapple and melted cheddar for $12.50. Which one would you rather buy? I'd spend the $2 more on that item because it makes me want it. So descriptive copy matters. I want you to think about, make it easy for me to read. I'm 55 years old. I do not like to travel with my reading glasses, so I don't. And so when you see me turn on the light on my phone to read your menu, you got a menu problem. If you see my hands reaching away from my body as far as I can because I don't have my readers, you got a problem. But along with that, one of the things that makes it hard for me to read menus is when you have cutesy fonts. I'm going to tell you now, the principles behind this are don't use more than 3 fonts on your menu. So in your section header, say appetizers, I want to use a sans serif font. That's like a Helvetica, an Arial. They're straight letters. Where when I talk about the item, I like a sans serif as well. But when I do the descriptive, I like serif fonts. Serifs are those little curly cues on the end, like Times Roman. It makes life so much easier for me to read the items, which ultimately means I'm going to buy it. I want you to avoid having a price list. That's when you have the menu item going straight across, and sometimes you have ... bold $, and price. You train your guests to find how much they want to spend or what they don't want to spend, and they hone in on certain items, ignoring the rest of your menu. You do not want to have a price list. It will crush your food cost. Did you know that if you have 10 items listed 5 side by side, that the first, second on the right, if I look at it on the left-hand side, the first item, the second item, and the last item on the right-hand side, do you know those will outsell anything else, the first, second, and last? So if I know what I want to merchandise and I can put it in the right spot, I can outsell anything. I want you also to think about labeling your prices. So when we have the descriptive copy, I want you to have a space, no $. I don't want you to make it so large, so small that it's either screaming, that would be a capital letter, right? If I text message you in all caps, $7.95, yelling at you. Or I don't want it so small that I'm whispering and I can barely see it. I want you to think your prices are one space after the descriptive copy, no $, not bolded, but a half font size to full font size smaller than a capital letter. It should be in between a capital and lowercase, just making it a little more subtle. And I also don't want to orphan it, and that means it's on its line by itself. Now, I want you to create price flexibility by using what I call odd cent pricing. This is something that I learned a long time ago. With odd cent pricing, you make it harder for your customers to detect an increase. Now, this doesn't work for those of you who use 00, right? If you're going to raise the price, you're going to raise it $1. That's just the way it is. But if you're using pennies on your prices, I like having 25 cents, 50 cents, 75 cents, and 95 cents. Because let's say I've got my burger now at $15, which blows my mind, right? Do you think we'd ever come to where we were selling a burger for $15? If I sell it for $15.25, and there's a change in pricing, my costs, and I want to jump it up to from $15.25 to $15.50, does my guest really notice? No. If I go to 75, do they notice? No. If I go to 95, do they notice? No. When I go to $16, then they notice. So this gives me the opportunity to kind of hide my increases without shocking the guest. Now I'm going to tell you this is an important one. I like 50% white space. White space is literally white space. I don't care if it's a red menu on the background, black or whatever, but white space, meaning there is space around each menu item that I can see. That half your menu should not have text on it. Now, I will tell you, warning, this does not mean bigger paper. It means fewer items, which is a whole nother topic we can talk about another time. I also, remember we talked about 10 items, first, second, last, outsell anything else? Did you know if you put a box around something, it will outsell the first, second, and last item? Do you know if I put a picture on it, if you're a restaurant concept, that pictures are applicable, they're appropriate for your restaurant? That picture will outsell the first, second, last, and any boxed item? Like, we can influence what our guests actually purchase. And I will tell you, the power of pictures is unbelievable. Put a picture on the menu, 1 in each section, maybe 2 in each section if it's appropriate. Watch those items get sold like crazy. Hey, that was an awesome episode. I want to thank you for taking the time to take action on building a better, more prosperous restaurant. Before you go, I want to give you these 3 thoughts. 1, by combining leadership and taking action with systems and training being checked by accountability, you are on your way to creating prosperity for you and your restaurant. 2, I have something I need from you. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you happen to listen to podcasts. By leaving us a review, other restaurant pros seeking out this information are able to find it. I read the reviews, and hearing how this information has benefited you does wonders for me. And 3, if you find any of the discussions helpful, share them. The more restaurant pros who have access to them, the better we become as an industry. For more restaurant resources or to get in contact with me, connect with me at davidscottpeters.com. Be passionate about what you're doing, be persistent, but more importantly, become better and help everyone around you become better, and your restaurant is going to kick some ass. If you're tired of not being able to leave your restaurant because no one else knows how to run it, I want to make sure you know it doesn't have to be that way. You can leave your restaurant. It is possible to build a team of people who know how you want the restaurant to run. With these trained and responsible people in place, you can give yourself time away. What would you do if you had time away from your restaurant? Would you sleep better? Would your relationships improve? Would you feel more relaxed? These are all things you deserve to experience as a business owner. It's why we own our own businesses. If you would like to learn how to own a restaurant that doesn't depend on you to be successful, click the link in the description to watch a free training course that teaches you exactly what you have to do. Also, be sure to subscribe to get my weekly tips and watch these 2 videos to get more information and guidance for running a successful restaurant.